What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? This is the Arkatech Beat Music Business Podcast. We are your hosts, platinum producers, Arkatech Beatz. I am Jugrnaut.
I am Mike Trauma D.
And welcome to the podcast. Today, we are going to get into the pros and the cons of ghostwriting music. Should you be looking to ghostwrite music to get your foot into the door and to up-ramp your skills? We're going to talk about that today, whether you're an artist or a producer or independent artist. We're going to talk about all the pros and cons and the things you should be looking out for. So we're going to try to get into this topic today, talk about it at length. Make sure you watch all the way to the end. If it's your first time here, make sure that you're subscribing, following, clicking notification bells, whatever you need to do. Because we drop this content once a week to try to help independent artists, producers, musicians to get better in the music business and help them in their journey to success. So let's get it. So, we've seen a lot of things going on in the media, folks about ghostwriting. I see some clips with 50 Cent recently about some songs that he wrote. And then we see some clips with Quentin Miller talking about how he helped write on some records with Nas and so forth and so on. What's your take on? First, let's explain to the people what ghostwriting is, and let's go there first, and then we can start kind of breaking down into how it pertains to producers, how it pertains to artists, songwriters, so forth and so on.
Well, ghostwriting, simply put, is you're creating either the song or you're creating the beat. For example, let's say a singer. A ghostwriter will be the person who actually writes the lyrics. As far as for a producer, they have ghost producers. These are producers who actually make the beat, and they kind of they stand in the background. They make the beat and kind of give it to the main producer, and the main producer is the one who kind of somewhat takes all of the accolades and it looks like they're the ones that produce it, I should say. It's an interesting thing because in some cases it's frowned on. For example, let's say your favorite artist, you find out that your favorite artist didn't necessarily write his own raps. As a fan, that can be a little like for real, it could be a little disheartening, and it could also feel like this artist wasn't genuine. As a fan, you rocked with him because his lyrics felt a certain way, it moved you a certain way. It may have helped you out in certain situations, giving you information, got you out of a jam or out of a rut or however mood you were in, and then to turn around and find out that artist didn't actually write it. I understand it could feel like that ain't hip hop, and in the hip hop culture, writing lyrics for another artist is also it's frowned on. It's MCing, it's all about writing your own lyrics, getting in the booth or wherever you're at, penning it out. So there's a lot of controversy going around just, ghost writing or ghost producing, as far as producing, you're making the beat for another producer, So that's pretty much what ghost writing, ghost producing is.
So once we look at the situation and we know people are ghostwriting, this has been going on forever. You just didn't know that they were ghostwriting. You didn't know that Pharrell and them was ghostwriting for like Teddy Riley and them. You didn't know that. You didn't know that Timbaland and them was ghostwriting for like groups like Jodeci and stuff like that. Like everybody kind of has their feet, in the beginning of ghostwriting for someone somewhere at some point. They may have done something that they may or may not have gotten credit for. Because in some cases in ghostwriting, sometimes you do get credit, sometimes you don't get credit. The true ghostwriting situation is that you get paid, but you don't get the credit. Right. That's a thing that some folks go through, is that they get paid, but they don't necessarily get the credit. But the credit is what allows you to go get more ghostwriting work. Right. So that's the main thing. And I think that's the the situation going on with Quentin Miller right now is that he was feeling like he needs to make sure that he's getting his credit so that he can continue to do this work that he's doing behind the scene.
Well,
But
there's actually, well, there's two kinds of ghostwriting. If
so
you want to,
let's talk
if you want
about
to
that.
explore
The differences between the ones that we're talking about.
there's the ghostwriting where you're kept secret.
Secrecy.
Nobody knows about you. You're my secret. You're you know, you write my lyrics, or you're producing my beats. You give them to me. I give you a lump sum of cash, and nobody knows about you. I go out into the world. I'm rapping the song. I'm acting like I'm doing the beat, but really it's this person that did it. I get all the accolades. I get everything that comes with it. And I go out into the world. I go into my interviews and I just front like, yeah, I did it. I did it. I wrote it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was feeling this way when I wrote it. I was here when I wrote it. Yeah, I created this beat when I was in Hawaii. And the person who really did it keeps quiet because all they really want is the payday. They may not necessarily want, the accolades and all of the extra stuff, the fame. Maybe they just want to live a good, comfortable life, making their beats, writing their songs, but they can go and be in the public and still do whatever they gotta do, pay their bills and live without all the extra stuff. So it has its pros and cons when it comes to that. Then you have your ghost production and your ghost writing, where the person is not necessarily a secret, and he'll get his writer's credit. And usually, if you look on the credits, you see that okay, it was written by so and so. Or what's really famous now is ghost production and ghost collaborating. So it's like everyone knows you guys work together or somebody else had a part in your production. No big deal. So those are the two things. It just depends on, what, how are you trying to sign up for? Like, what are you trying to do exactly? What is your goal? And then based on that and the relationship with the artist, you can figure out how you want to do it. There's no real rules, but you have to figure out how you want to play the game.
I think some people would say, why would anybody want to, take the lump sum? Why would I take the lump sum of money? But like you said, like it could be because of the pressure of the music industry. Some people
Yeah,
don't. Some people don't like to deal with the pressure and the flashing lights of the music industry. Some people just want the money to support their family,
yeah.
and that's all that they're really concerned about. They
And
like
as
the
you as you
internet.
get as you get older, like it's kind of more appealing in certain ways, man. You want to just make your money. You don't want
Yeah,
all the extra nonsense. You don't want to be, you want to be able to go to grocery stores or go to the movies with your family, or you want to be able to still do somewhat, quote unquote, some normal activity, but you want to make sure that your bag is right, your money
right.
good, you know what I'm saying, without all the extra BS.
And in most cases, when we're talking about ghostwriting like that in that capacity, like you said, it'll be pretty much a large upfront, typically no back end, right?
Right,
Because your name isn't attached to anything, right? So typically there wouldn't be any back end. You would basically be a work for hire at that point, and then you'd
right.
be basically contracted like that, paid like that one time, and then that's the game, and it moves forward. And now for the producers that may be ghostwriting, some producers sign to other producers not only to ghostwrite, but it's for the access, it's to make sure that your beats can get out and get placed, right? So that's also another pro to the ghostwriter situation, because you on your own, you might not have the access, and you use the name artist to get the access so that you can have your music get put out there, and then you can kind of create a revenue stream for yourself. The main thing, honestly, with ghostwriting is like, I don't think there's any right or wrong way per se. It's just whatever fits your objective in the music industry, right? If your objective is to write for everybody, then you're going to want to see if you can get credit, right? Because that's the thing that you're going to need in order to kind of get yourself from one person to the next, is the credits. If your objective is just to kind of rock with this producer or one camp for an extended period of time, let's say it's a really dope camp and the camp has a lot of artists, say you're in line with like say like a Cash Money situation, or maybe like how Kendrick and them had their situation going back in the day with Top Dog, then you can be in that situation for an extended period of time and just work and then just get paid and not have to necessarily worry about, you know, running and chasing other artists because you're working with the top tier artists, right? So
Right.
that kind of works.
But the ghost producing also thing that's beneficial as a ghost producer is that, let's say you're a no-name producer, and usually when you're a no-name producer, you really can't uh, ask for a certain amount. I mean, you can ask for whatever you want, but as far as your advance, you're not going to get a lot. You know, hooking up with a major producer allows him to charge a certain fee to the label. So, for example, let's say you as a regular producer, you get a situation where you could get your beat placed. The label may say, you know what, we only giving you $1,500. That's it. You're a new producer. You don't got no credits. You're lucky we let you get on this. You're getting $1,500. You're getting this amount of points, this and that. We may even try and take a publisher, whatever, right? Now, if you're a ghost producer for a major producer who has some skin in the game, now that producer could go and command maybe 10 grand and come back to you and say, hey, here's 5, here's 7, hold that.
Yep.
So you could actually, as far as on an advanced level, you may make more upfront. As far as the back end is concerned, that's all negotiable. You know what I'm saying? You could always negotiate that. You may get something, you may get nothing, but there's no real rules. It's just you got to take this information and kind of craft your own rules and see what the person that you're working with is down to do.
I think that's the best thing to say, is that everything is negotiable,
right?
And like you said, there's a parameter, but it's not a hardcore rule. I think I want the listeners to understand that. Listen, it's what you negotiate, right? Don't be into a situation where it's like, okay, I want a ghostwriter that I'm just not supposed to get anything on the back end. That's typical, right? It's a situation that you have to do. You have to make sure that you're looking at your situation, looking at your relationship with the person that you're trying to work with, and then trying to negotiate what you think you can negotiate, in the realm of what's happening. Sometimes we can get into a situation where we can be thinking outside of what's happening currently, and then kind of either over leverage ourselves or try to overplace ourselves in a way that we shouldn't be trying to do. What I would tell these folks that are looking to get into ghost production, just to make sure that if your goal is to get your foot in the door and then eventually get your name out and then kind of grow, you just want to give yourself maybe time limits as to how long that you want to be behind the scenes, whether or not you want to get your credits out there. If you can get your credits out there, then I can use those as stepping stones to help to grow your leverage, or your negotiation value after the time. I guess what I wanted to also ask you too is, like, in the case of, they say, like the other day there was a thing with Quentin Miller, and he said basically he had did some work with Nas, and because of his situation and his attachment to the other situation with Drake, as far as writing some things for him, immediately the internet went into a frenzy saying, what, he's writing lyrics for Nas, and it kind of created this thing. He did this thing where he kind of didn't say exactly what he did on the song or how he contributed, so it just kind of created a frenzy.
Well, the first thing that I've noticed is he's the type of person that he wants his credits, and it goes back to what type of arrangement you make with the people that you're working with. For him, he wants his credit, and he wants his credit because not only does it pay, but it also kind of like is an ad for him. It allows him to showcase his work so he could continue getting work. So when he says, "Hey, I worked with this person, I worked with that one," your credits start to compile, and that helps you as far as your value, and it helps you with leverage. It helps with opportunities. So credits is very important. Let's be clear. You want that. Sometimes the credits is worth more than the upfront money.
Than the money.
So he wants his credits. Now, the way he's wording things, is he's being very selective.
Intentional.
Yeah, he's intentional. When you say you work with somebody, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually in the room with them and you got a relationship with them. You could really just be working on the project in
Right.
any capacity. If I'll give you an example, let's say if someone from the marketing department made a phone call that helped secure a ad for your project, or help secure a feature, or help secure any type of sponsorship, that person worked with you.
Yeah.
So they're gonna say, yeah, when they have their credits, they're gonna say, yeah, I worked with Nas, but Nas may not know them personally. And I'm not saying this is the situation here, but the people are very loose with it because they understand how important credits are. So in that situation, maybe he worked with the Hit Boy. Maybe he helped out with a couple of words here and there. Maybe it wasn't actually Nas, but maybe it was another artist. You know, maybe there were some words he said in a hook. I mean, who
Yeah,
knows?
because as producers, we tend to come with records with hooks all the time.
Yeah,
Right, and that's part of a cheat to get your records placed easier. To be honest, if you got hooks in
right.
it already, so it would have made sense for a producer like Hit to get a guy like him who has a track record of writing, and to maybe have him collaborate on something. And if it landed on Nas' album, then yeah, you work with Nas.
Look. I mean, I think if you think about it, man, R&B, right? R&B has always been a collaborative effort, right? People have always written for R&B artists,
Yeah, all
whether
the
it's
time.
Beyonce, Whitney Houston, you name it. All the greats have been, they've written for, and people have collaborated. They have actually writing camps where a bunch of people writers coming together and do this. You do this melody, and this person writes this to that melody, and just trying to get the right sound. And personally, I feel like as a consumer, you know, especially at that time, we were paying a lot of monies buying music, right? Remember the CDs or the cassettes or the vinyl. You're paying a lot of money. Sometimes you buy 2 albums, 3 albums. You could easily spend $50, $60 on an album, on the albums.
Yeah,
Especially if they were dropping the same days. And as a consumer, when you get that album, you want top notch music. You don't want to get no trash, right? So for me, I think whatever you got to do to deliver that hot music, all right. Some people may say, well, then you're not really that talented. You're just reciting somebody else's lyrics. I mean, we could go back and forth all day. You could go back to some of the Drake stuff, the Little Kim. I mean, the list goes on. 50 Cent working with other artists. It's really like all over the place.
let's stay there. I want us to stay right there, right? I want us to stay right there because you and I have been in the room with a lot of heavy hitters. Like this is all real. This is all documented. We have been in the room with some of the top that have ever done it in rap music and so forth and so on. And that's always been our number one complaint. Our number one complaint is to once an artist makes it, like let's say for example, you got Nas and you got Illmatic, right? Now Illmatic is one of the very, very unique situations where a brand new artist gets to have an album that's full of all top tier production,
Right.
right? And this was really the blueprint. I don't think people really realize and understand that this was the blueprint of the situation. So to your point, when we talk about ghostwriting, when we talk about all of these things in connections and in tandem, why is it that the artists who had the access, like you said, the best producers, the best writers, the best songwriters, why didn't they utilize that when the budgets allowed them to do that? Were they just basically trying to hang on to that thing, like we said, that they have to write it themselves, even though they may have been in a situation where them writing it for themselves may have made their album maybe less strong versus just, hey, let me just collaborate and do what I need to do, because currently, like, I think that's what adds to Drake's longevity is the willing to collaborate and the willing to do songs with other people. And I think, you and I know it's not an infinite well of creativity coming from an artist. You have a very high point, and then you most times you're going to decline.
Right. And as an artist, your experiences change. Like the amount of years you had from they say you have before your first album, you have all the years prior for material for that first album. Once you make that second album, it's really from the first album experience to the second album.
Yep.
That's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time, and a lot of times artists get lost in that. That's why they have this sophomore jinx, as they call it. But you make a very good point as far as why don't they collaborate more, and I think it's like you said, people get stuck on this, oh, I got to do it myself too much sometimes, or they get stuck on this keep it real.
Listen, we saw this happening in real time. Like we saw this happening in real time where, listen, this project needs such and such. It needs, and it's like, why don't we just go get such and such? And some artists just refuse to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of politics involved.
Yeah,
there's a lot of behind the scenes business things that are also involved. And as an artist starts to grow, they start getting a little versed in the business. And people in the air saying, "Hey, if you do it like this, you make a whole lot more money." Maybe have your own production team and take all of their publishing,
a portion of it,
and keep it in house. You retain most of the money. And that may not necessarily be the best bet for the artist, like career wise or musically.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of artists that have a production team, but that production team is really not giving them what they need. Like just because you go out and grab somebody to be a part of your team doesn't necessarily mean that person is going to give you what you need. Sometimes what you want is not what you need.
So that would be like one of the main cons, right? So one of the main cons would be like, okay, like you said, so let's talk about that. Specifically when we say artists would have a camp, or artists would develop a camp, develop their production team, put the camp together, because like you said, it is a way for you to retain ownership, right, in terms of publishing. Because now you can kind of charge for that. You can kind of put people under you. You can basically get your production done at a discount.
But you hear what you're saying though. They're doing it primarily for business reasons,
right, and not creative.
They're not saying, "Oh, this is hot. This guy is really making whatever." It's more of a, you know what? I could save a whole lot more money, or I could keep a whole lot more money if I do this, and do that. And I know and this is what one record label specifically does. They have and I'm sure the comments know which label I'm talking about, but I'm not gonna put it out there. But this label has a publishing entity, and they like to push their publishers on the artists that they sign.
Yeah.
They push their writers, put them in writers camps, and they specifically push them. And they don't want any other producer unless you're part of this
particular
conglomerate.
Yep.
Yeah. And the music that those publishers, those writers are bringing to the table is not necessarily what the artist needs. Like they would rather give the artist some trash beats, knowing that they get 100% of the pie, versus saying, you know what, let me rock with that producer or that artist or whoever over there. He's not signed to us, but he's bringing what we need for this artist to pop. You know, so it's a real like sneaky game, you know, and
You know, it's funny because I remember when we infiltrated that, right? And we were the odd men out, right? We were the one that the artist picked outside of the circle.
mm-hmm.
And then, you know, the circle was like, hey, we see that you got the joint jumping with such and such.
Right.
Send us some stuff. We might want you to come into the circle now, because you were able to infiltrate the circle outside of their influence, because they were controlling the flow of music that was getting to the artist.
Right.
So,
but you would have to give a whole lot of stuff.
yeah,
And it's not even guaranteed that you're
gonna get any placements.
Yeah. So
Guarantee
it was one of those things, you know, that, you know, it really comes down to you and your level of comfortability, you know, and like this game, when it comes to writing and ghost production, it can be very tricky, you know, when you have to be very you gotta you know, you gotta pay attention, man, and know what you want and what you're getting out of it. You know, I think that's very important, because there's a lot of people who ghost produce and they get into it thinking one thing, but then it's not that. You know, some people ghost produce and they're thinking they're gonna get the credits, they're gonna get the accolades, they're gonna get this and that, and then they don't, because the person that they're doing it for, they weren't on the same page. They're like, nah, you can't say you did it. You can't get in it. You can't get into the interview.
No.
Or better yet, you can't go see the artist when I go see the artist. You know, you're the ghost producer. You stay home. I go to the studio and I come with your records and so forth. That's the arrangement we have. So I think that you have to be very clear on, you know, what is it you're looking for and what you're trying to do, and it has to be transparent. You know, and if you're working like that, and you're transparent and you know what you want and you're setting your goals out and you're negotiating that, then so be it. You know, but you have to be clear on what is it you want. Why are you ghost producing? Why are you ghost writing? What are you doing it for? You know, and as I said before, there's plenty of ghost writers and ghost producers who got in the game. You know, from Rick Ross to 50 Cent to I mean
the list is long.
The list is long.
Mace ghostwriter for a lot of people. Like,
yeah.
So it's a long list.
So there's a lot of big name producers and artists who were ghost producing and ghost writing. And
Future, I saw a joint with Future leak for the Drunken Love. I was like, I heard the demo for that, and I was like, well, this is incredible that he sang the whole thing. Like it was like
yeah.
What? Like, this is his song.
Yeah, and even what's our guy who did a lot of stuff for Dr. Dre.
The mailman in that, right?
The white guy, Scott Storch.
Scott Storch.
Yeah.
Scott Storch.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
Right. They said the white guy.
That's
funny.
Scott Storch.
But
incredible.
Like he's one of the best,
right?
Like one of the most incredible ones of all time. You know what I mean? But like if we're talking about this thing, man, like I it's so funny when you said that. It's like when it starts to all fall apart when like you just said, when you said you can't go, you know, like because if you're a person that's trying to get into the music industry and somebody says, hey, I'm getting ready to go into the studio with Nas, you would want to go. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you want to go. Like, you want to meet the people that inspired you to do what you're going to do, right? And if the person that you have the arrangement will tell you that you can't go, like, I think that's where everybody starts to kind of feel some type of way and start to say, hey, you know, you didn't produce all of that, and the arrangement gets broken. Is because
but not for nothing. In a weird way, not everybody. I don't know how, but not everybody actually feels that way. Some people like I don't want to meet my hero.
Oh, that's another thing, right?
You know, I don't want to meet my hero. I don't want to be disappointed. I want to go ahead and make my beats, give it out. Sounds good. I like the way they did to it, and I just want to continue in this world I'm in, and you know, there's something to say about that. You know, there's a certain, you know, batch of people who just want to live that and stay in their little creative bubble, you know, and make the money that they're making, and they're good on that. They're not interested in fame. They're not they're not interested in actually meeting the artists, you know, you know, which, you know, I could understand to a certain extent, you know.
I
So
remember you calling me one time and you was at the studio, you was at the Hit Factory, the old Hit Factory in New York, and you called me and you say, "Yo, where you at?" I'm like, "Yo, I'm up in the crib, I'm up in, you know, up in YO, whatever." And he's like, "I need you to get to the studio like now. Like, I need you to get here now. Like, Keith Sweat is here. I need you to get here now." And listen, I wasn't really a fan, right? I wasn't really a fan, but you know, it's Keith Sweat, right? I'm not really a fan, but I'm like, you know, and then when I got there, and I'm just like, I got there and I was wrapping it up, and I was like, okay, you know, this is
there were plenty of phone calls like that too.
Yeah, like
right?
this is a big shit, right? I'm looking at this, I'm like, yeah, okay, this is okay, but you know, and I think what happens is that's your journey. That's part of the experiences that you're going through. These are part of the things that we're going through, and we're talking about these pros and these cons of ghostwriting. It's like, listen, this is sometimes it's an ideal way to get started, right? There's people have to understand, like in this game, like there's no conventional way of getting in, right? You got to try to get in any way you can get in. And once you can kind of get in, then you have to now assess what's going on. And then if you need to make a pivot, you pivot. But at the same time, if you're not in, how are you going to know what to do? How are you going to learn? How are you going to network? It's like there's so many different things that are not going to happen if you're not allowing yourself to get in. So sometimes I don't want artists and producers to feel like, oh, I don't want to be in those type of arrangements, so forth and so on. But now you're on the outside. You're making beats in your basement and nobody's hearing them. Right? Like you don't want to be relegated to that. So in some cases, you may have to give up some things in order to kind of get into the situation. Right? If Pun said to us, "Hey, you got to ghostwrite capital punishment," we would have did it. Right? Like it would have been what it would have been. You know what I'm saying? And then even in that situation, we didn't really take any really upfront bread like that. So it was all about trying to make sure that we got the relationship, got our foot in the door, got the credit, and then was able to build off of that. So it's a thing that I just don't want everyone to look at like it's some sort of negative stigma by somebody ghost wrote, man. Like, listen, man, there's so many people that have really ascended from ghostwriting that are like really, really big in the game. And I don't know why it's only frowned upon, like you said, in hip hop. In the other genres, it's whatever.
Right.
But in hip hop, because we think everything has to be pure and everything has to come from the artist. And I think that's another reason why a lot of rap careers don't last as long as they should have.
Right.
Is because of that lack of ability of just saying, hey, let me accept a song from so and so. Let me accept another song from such and such. Even right now, there's a well, that's a cover. That's not necessarily a ghostwrite. But
I remember, you know, there's nothing wrong with collaborating and asking for help and just double checking your work, period. Because you know, you're trying to deliver something and you're trying to capture a moment. And when it comes to creativity, you don't know when that's going to happen. And when your record label is on your back, like we need to release something this year or whatever, and your creative juices is just not flowing, like you're going to need some help. And you want to make sure that whatever you bring to the table is very, and also on top of that, it's very easy to be high on your own shit.
Real talk.
Like you make something like, oh, this hot. This is hot. You need somebody to be like, nah, dog, that ain't it. So this collaborative ghost writer stuff allows people to get together and having more than one set of ears to listen to the stuff.
Feedback, man.
You know, go through it and be like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Oh, this is not quite it. Oh, we almost there. You know, let's fine tune this. Use that word instead of that word. It may hit a little better. I mean, Jug, me and you we just did it in our last review. Like we was going back and forth with Beatz and we was giving each other information like, hey, let's try this or let's try that. Like, you know, I think, you know, when you're trying to deliver some quality, based off of being creative, you got to utilize everything around you. You know, Nas, we were in the studio with Nas, and he's writing everything out. He's doing his thing, and he looked at us and said, "How that sound to y'all?" And for a minute, I'm like, "You're Nas. What you mean?" But at that moment, it was like, nah, he's taking a second to just let me hear what let me get your opinion, because
opinion on that.
you may hear it different, or as a producer, you may hear certain things that may clash with certain sounds in your instrumentation, or it don't flow, whatever the case may be. But like when I heard him say that, like my respect for him just went a whole lot higher, because it was like, yo, he's willing to get information from you. He's willing to hear what you got to say. He's being open-minded, because you may add something to make it a little sharper, or you may add something that's just going to make it like a whole lot better of a record. So
that's the dope thing about him. The dope thing about him is that he knows he's the top of the rap food chain, but he's never that that self-absorbed to not want to take feedback or input from the other people in the room. And
right.
and this is from our experience in being in the room with him multiple times, not just a singular time, because we have multiple records that we did with him. And it's like seeing him ask for that feedback, like you said, on multiple occasions, and asking the room to get the temperature of the room, like getting that feedback and applying the feedback. I think that's what makes him who he is. And I think that's the reason why it's another part of the longevity. Again, it's not believing your own hype. Is
Right.
looking to get that real time feedback and be like, yo, all right, let me apply that. So let me apply it. Let me see how it's going to work. This is really a situation where a lot of artists really fail. It's like, don't be afraid of getting the feedback. Like, get some feedback. Like, it's nothing wrong with doing that. Of getting the feedback to making sure that you're coming with the best situation that you can come with when it's time for you to put your music out. So I think that's like another plus when you say that. But shout out to Nas, man. He's just like, ooh, he's on fire right now. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Because look, as these producers and as these artists, album after album, touring, running around, doing pop-ups, signings, like it gets very challenging to find a creative space at times to create records and be relevant, saying things that matter for today. So it's very important that they're open-minded to kind of tap in with someone who's still on the feet or on the ground,
Right.
and if that's you and you got a ghostwriter produce, that may be your end. That may be part of your legacy of helping make that artist continue their run. And I think that as artists, we and producers, we got to all be open-minded. I think we're just too close-minded. We don't want to hear what the other person got to say. I mean, even Ye has, how many producers does Ye put in a room?
Collaborate with, like because he realizes the power of that. He doesn't worry about the whole ghostwriting thing. I think he worries about getting the true feedback, and that's
Right.
That's if you think about it, that's how a lot of startups do that situation. They'll start something up and then they'll get the feedback, see what's wrong, tweak it, see what's wrong, tweak it, go back, tweak it. He always talks about all these hours that he put into the record Power. If you remember, like they put like 5,000 hours in the Power to mix it to get it the way that it sounded at the end of the day. But look at that album. That album became the album of the decade.
I mean,
right?
even Capital Punishment. Like, how many times did we have to do that record over and over?
We laid that record down 3 separate times.
Swapping out the drums, chopping up this, getting it to sound like this, just to get it to sound a certain way.
Same thing with Leatherface. Remember, Leatherface. He had called us and said, "Hey, he needed something else," or was it someone asked us to add something different to it?
No, that was Capital Punishment also. Yeah. And we went in and I played the little bells, played that little, and that was, it was like, oh, that's perfect.
Right.
And it went, so sometimes you got to be open-minded, and you got to, look around the room, listen, and have to be able to say, okay, what's criticism, what's hate. You got to be able to differentiate what's, the two.
The two,
You
right?
know,
Criticism
and
versus hate. That's a whole other episode.
yeah, and apply it. You know, but don't be scared to collaborate. Don't be scared to get some opinions of other artists or other producers. I mean, the stuff could take your career to a whole nother level, or take the way you make beats to a whole nother level. You know,
What would you say is the biggest surprise um, for ghostwriting for a record that you've ever had? Like a record that you was like you was sure didn't have a ghostwriter on it, and then when
Dr.
you found out, yeah,
The records Dr. Dre did.
oh man, those were hard to stomach.
The
Those were hard to stomach because before there was Scott Storch, there was Mailman, right?
Yeah,
And
Milkman and Battle Cat, those
yeah, like
guys.
so a lot of you know the thought or the pedestal that we had put Dr. Dre on when we started to find out that hey, there was somebody else that was making those drums do what they did.
Yeah, the first time I saw Scott Storch play
Still DRE.
Still the RE. Bling 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 bling. I was like,
Like,
whoa.
wait. That's ain't that Dre's?
I was like, whoa, and then just watching go from record to record to record, like dun 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 dun, like
uh,
what? You
yeah,
know, like just going through catalog, and I'm just like, wow. But
yeah.
at the end of the day, those records were bangers. Like that's what it's about. Like just contributing,
getting
and
the best done.
and the end product was a banger. You know, so you
I,
know that's my feel about it, man. At the end of the day, man, we want bangers, man. You want bangers. We want records that relate. We want lyrics that touch your soul, touch your heart, moves you in some sort of way. Same thing with instrumentation. We want music that's gonna move you, make you feel a certain way. And if you have issues on doing it on your own, get some help. Collaborate.
I think the even on Scott Storch to know that he did help that Crimea River.
Oh, yeah,
I said this guy is incredible. Like you know what I
yeah.
mean,
I was like, I thought Timbaland did the whole thing.
like that, and then like hearing like Pharrell in the background vocals of like an SWV song. It's like really like
Collaborate,
like are you
man.
serious? Like serious? Like
Folks been doing this forever.
forever. Like
You
once you
know,
start to kind of peel back the onion and start to see like your favorite records and the people that you might have thought did it 100%. Even if I go back to some of the Jodeci stuff that I thought was like phenomenal, not realizing that Tim was behind all of that,
right?
along with Devontae, and that was like mind blowing. Like, oh, that's why it sounds like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? So
So it's
to me,
always been done, man. And again, man, it's just you just want at the end of the day with that project to do what it needs to do. Hit those numbers, touch people, and then everybody that's involved in the project benefits and can continue to get on additional products. You know, so I
so
think that's what
so
it's all about.
so let's recap for the folks, right?
Hmm.
What would we say are the like if we had to break it down to 3 pros for
I think
ghostwriting?
well, one of the pros was it can get you into the door.
That's the first one.
You know, that's definitely one of the pros. One of the pros will get you into the door. Um, it'll allow you to may allow you to meet certain people, or it'll allow you to get your production or your lyrics in the hands of certain artists, which is what you want to do. Um, Another pro is that you can get a heftier advance fee versus using your own name. You know, piggybacking off of somebody else who's well established allows for different pricing.
Sure.
You by yourself with no name, you could probably only charge 1,500. But if you were ghostwriting or being a part of a production team that has a name and has credits, you could charge maybe 5 to 10, even more.
Right.
So the advance will be a whole lot more money because you're giving up something as well, and who you're attached to. I think also a third pro is um, creativity. I
Yeah.
think ghostwriting allows you to sit in a room with maybe the big name person or a few new people, and it allows y'all to come together and create something that you may not have been able to do on your own. It opens up certain things creative wise. So that's an additional pro as well. A certain workflow, maybe you get hooked up with different sounds. There
So
are
basically,
produced
so
there
basically, you're saying it just puts you really in a position to learn.
right.
Right.
There are ghost writers and ghost producers that when they got into that position, the main producer said, here's my drum pack, or here's my sounds, rock out. So you may get a whole lot of things that you didn't have before. Like, wow, like now I got, an additional set of tools that I can use. So, um, and for those artists, sorry, those writers or producers who's not looking for fame and just want to be able to, you know, be out and about their families and somewhat live a normal life away from fame. That's another pro. You can do this and don't worry about all the fame. You can make your money, make real good money, and don't have to worry about you know hiding out. You don't gotta hide. You don't gotta be a target. Um,
And that's the thing right now.
and that's a major plus to be able to move wherever and however you want freely and still be able to collect off of your craft.
That's real. And if I had to go over some of the cons, one of the cons is that you might not receive credit, right? And that may be either by design or against design, right? You might not, you may have wanted credit but can't get it. You may have wanted to have access to the artist's full Rolodex and network, and you might not get that. So
Right.
that's also a con. Um,
Another con is you might not get any back end money.
yeah, that's another one.
You, you might not receive publishing. You may not see royalties. You may not see any of those things. So that's a con. What else? You may not be able to meet your favorite artists,
That's a con,
which can be a con for some people.
right?
Some people's dream is to meet and work side by side by their favorite artists. And in certain situations, depending on how your situation is set up, that may not happen. Um, you know,
The other con would be we said about the royalties and back end. We said that, but the it's escaping me right now. So I'm drawing a blank. Not supposed to draw a blank on
well,
on live
well, one
podcast.
well, one thing is you may not be able to because you may not get credits. You may not be able to get other opportunities if nobody knows you did the music.
That's
You know,
that's
you, you-
that's the other one. And then the other one was you may have a falling out with the artist, and then you may be left with you may be kind of left out into the cold. And I think we may see that like in the case of like maybe like a mailman, like you never heard of him after Scott Storch came around. Mailman, we haven't talked about mailman, and I think he
right?
worked on the Chronic. Like, how do we not talk about this guy? And he's not mentioned at all.
Yeah, that's pretty strange.
Yeah. So this is a one of those things that you have to just know that those are the cons of being in this situation and really doing doing this thing. It's like there are pros and cons to everything, so you have to make sure that it aligns with your long-term goals. And
Yeah, I,
that's the main takeaway from here today is to make sure that if you're going to get into a situation with ghostwriting is that it does align with your short-term and long-term goals. Make sure that that's well defined before you jump into that. Make sure that you're
right.
clear on the potential of it all, right? Because
Yeah,
you can be in a situation where it goes nowhere. You can be in a situation where it goes to the moon.
yeah. You
You know?
got. I think you have to be really understand the parameters of the deal you're getting into because some deals they'll have you sign a NDA.
Yeah.
And you cannot talk. You cannot go into interviews. You cannot say that you did this. So whatever situation that you're going to jump into, be really clear of what you're getting into, and negotiate what you want. What do you want to do this for a limited time? Do you want to do this for a limited amount of projects? Maybe certain specific projects.
Yeah.
You negotiate it.
And everything is negotiated. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. That's the rule.
Right. That's the rule. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast, folks. Man, I'm telling you, man, it's like so much jewels in this joint, man. I'm like telling you.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
it's like if you don't understand, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't think anybody that I have given this type of free game, man. Damn, it's crazy. Make sure you're following us at arkatechbeats.com. New articles, new everything is up. New beats.
New beats. We're getting hit up for a lot of beats.
Tune in. Tune in on the beats. We was doing
We're updating the website currently, so just keep an eye out. We're going to be uploading new beats.
And a lot of people have been asking us for professional feedback, and we used to have a portal for that. We're looking to reopen that portal again to start giving back some professional feedback for folks and their records and their songs. Just to kind of give them the tips on what they can improve on, how to get better, so forth and so on. So, we had a portal that was open a while back. We closed it. It kind of got a little out of control. And, now we're saying, okay, we have the bandwidth for it. We have the personnel to kind of make sure that we can kind of manage that now. So, look out for that in the new year, new portal, new book on music publishing coming soon. Whoa.
Yeah.
There are things coming for us. So
information, man. Information to help you. I know a lot of you guys want some production, and I know you guys may not have the big budgets. So we're gonna do some things that's gonna allow you to be able to use our production and very minuscule, just to help you guys out. And get you guys out there, man, because there's a lot of talent, and for the world not to hear your talent just because you can't get a beat, it's just like, damn, that's weak. So
and it's a little bit different, like with us. Once you get our music, then you become part of a little bit of a community situation where you can ask questions and get feedback and ask direction on where you can go and how you can go. I don't think you're going to get that any other place. Most times you make a transaction on a beat for something else. You don't get to talk to that person. You don't know what they're going to do. They don't know what they can do for you.
Right.
There's nothing like that. For us, it's going to be a little bit different in terms of the music. If you use our music and you're using it the right way, that there's going to be some sort of, you'll get some assistance on this side in some way or fashion. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So until next time, folks, we do appreciate you. Check us out next week. Arkatech Beatz.
Peace.
Peace, everybody.
Arkatech